Hello, welcome to Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast with me, Richard Herring. This week it's going to be Robert Webb. How very exciting. He does the post office adverts. I'll probably ask him mainly about that. And this week's episode is sponsored by Motion. It's a man called Sholto, who very kindly does the video credits for this very podcast. So out of the goodness of our hearts, we're giving him a free advert. He's a motion designer and art director from London. His company's called Motion. Go to crowmotion.com. Crow, like a bird, the crow. He produces little sequences, animations and moving graphics for big companies like Frame Store, but also tiny little companies like Go Faster Stripe. That's very rude. He designed and produced all of the comic relief graphics this year and would love to do more work in the third sector. I don't know what that is, but any sector is all right. Whatever sector you're in, he likes the colour yellow and is a Leo. He says, I've always enjoyed Rahela while I work, so I'm genuinely honoured and excited to do the graphics. Fuck off, Sholto. Grow up here. So he needs some work. So if you have any opportunity to give Sholto from Motion some work he makes nice. Well, look at these credits coming up if you're on the video. If not, if you're on the audio, go and look at one of the videos. They're really good. He's very good. So thank you to that. Now let us go and enjoy Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast. You could get your advert on here as well if you pay us some money. He didn't pay us, but you have to. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Leicester Square Theatre. This is the first time you have seen him tonight. Will you please welcome Richard Herring? Thank you very much. Hello London. Welcome to Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre. And this is Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre podcast, or as some of the cool kids have started calling it recently, Leicester Power. There's some cool kids in. It's very exciting to be here. It's in the week of recording. The big news story that I've enjoyed, enjoyed might be the wrong word, is Rolf Harris has been... Rolf Harris, who is an enemy of the show, and was an enemy of the show before he was found to be fiddling with small children. We can say that now. He's been found guilty, but before he was just an enemy for being rude to Adam Buxton. He's written a song about the victims, calling them woodworms and the such like. Which someone said on Twitter, well, that's that he was touching up the woodworms, so that's. But he's only interested in them when they're louses. That is the thing. That is the thing with Rolf. But he wrote a very unpleasant song about his victims, which is an awful thing to do. But then, in today's paper, one of his victims wrote a song back to him. I don't know if you saw this, which, again, it's sort of a slightly weird Blue Jam sort of development that's happening in the actual... I mean, it's quite a serious story that is being tackled via song, by like a rap battle between the two. But I think maybe all crimes should be solved this way. I mean, increasingly, in this country, all that's important is whether people are able to sing well. That is how we judge them. So maybe we can have some kind of X-Factor legal system where the criminal writes a song about what he thinks about the victim writes a song in return. Whichever song is the best, that is the verdict. I think this could work out for us. Thanks to everyone who's kick-started this show, that paid for the video of this. I do have to say, in my opening monologue, this is from Josh Hernandez. Very international show we are. Josh Hernandez. He says, my friend Richard Vallejos, very international show we've got, is a fucking idiot, although the rest of his family is quite charming. So that is, he paid for that to be. But some people paid some money to get some T-shirts made, which I'm making. I said I'd make handmade T-shirts. It ended up, I didn't realise it'd be this many people. About 75 people have paid enough money to get a handmade T-shirt. I'm working very slowly. I'm not very good at drawing, and I'm not an artistic person, but I'm making T-shirts based on the show. And this will give you an example both of how difficult this is and how bad I am at drawing. So I've been trying to think of 75 different T-shirts based. So I'm already getting to quite dodgy territory of obscure things. There's this one I wanted to put Slytherin, Lannister and Herring, because that's the... But I don't know if you can spot the mistake. I don't know if anyone can spot. There's a little error. little error in this one, so I'm not going to... Made a slight error, and you know what? As I was writing the I nearly wrote another R. I genuinely did. That's how tired I am. I nearly put, oh, thank God I stopped myself. I'd have looked an idiot if I put 3 R's. It would have been 4 R's. I mean, I'm going to give this to one of the members of the audience at some point tonight. Because it's no good, is it? It's got a mistake in it. It'll be worth even more than the regular T-shirts. But for those of you who paid £75, this is the kind of thing you're going to get. So I hope... I spent £50 on T-shirt ink, whatever that stuff is. That one, that's my favourite one because it comes out very blobby. I've become quite an artist. These will be worth a lot of money. I hope there'll be one day someone will pay to have these all put back together and put in an art gallery where they belong. But for now, they're coming to you. Anyway, we have to crack on with the show. We've got two fantastic guests. Usually there's one good one and one rubbish one, but today they're both good. We could have spread them out a bit. My first guest this evening, I'm sorry, we only do one podcast tonight. My guest this week is probably best known as Graham from Meaningful Sex. That's why you're all here to see him. He was also Arvo in My Family, the famous character of Arvo. Remember him in the popular sitcom My Family? Please welcome Robert Webb, ladies and gentlemen. It's Robert Webb. Here he comes. Arvo. Thank you very much. Come in, sit down, pull up a mic. Hold the mic near your face.
Hello, thank you.
I tell you, you've got a nerve showing your face around here.
Oh, yeah.
After what you did on Pointless. You've got a nerve. That's all I'm saying. So, we'll get to that
I'm really
later.
sorry. Every night I wake up going, Namibia. Why didn't you say Namibia?
Yeah.
Not, what did I say? I had to think of an obscure country and I said
England.
France.
Yeah. Anyway, tell us about Graham from Meaningful Sex. We'll get that out of the way because probably...
Graham from Meaningful Sex was made when BBC Three was still called BBC Choice.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how long ago it was. And it starred Conleth Hill, who plays the bald one, balder than me, but properly bald, in Game of Thrones. The Varys or
No spoilers.
Nobody watched Game of Thrones.
They don't watch Game of Thrones. If they watch Game of Thrones, they wouldn't be here because the denouement is on this evening, and I'm very...
Oh, I don't want to... Spoilers!
Yeah.
Yes, but he was in that and he was very good. So Graham was the nerdy virgin boy person who was living in a shared house that was filming in Belsize Park, but it was meant to look gritty. And then there was sadomasochism going on, and it was a sort of one-off comedy drama about sex.
Sweet.
Sex.
Did you get to have sex with a lady or a man in it?
No, neither. It was there was an American actor in it who's been in loads of stuff, and I can't remember her name. So she'll be delighted. She'll be delighted.
I know that she is a big fan of this podcast. That particular actress who we don't know the name of.
Sarah Stewart, and she was very good. See, it only takes me a couple of seconds.
And what about Arvo in My Family? The My Family, it's a big sitcom.
My first experience of Robert Lindsay, yes. Cool. It was the episode where they're stuck on a tube carriage, and I played Arvo, the Estonian backpacker, and so I used my very, very precise Eastern European accent, and I talked about the medieval glories of Tallinn, which could be from anywhere in the world, but apparently it's from Estonia. Yes.
That's good. We were on Pointless together, and
yes, you're going to keep bringing that up.
I got a pointless answer and thought, wow, definitely through to the head-to-head round now.
Well, this is why, because this is why I thought about Pointless every day of my life and how badly it went, and how I'd let the team Rich Rob down. Yeah. And then I thought, why do I think about this every day? And I realised it's because I still followed you on Twitter. So I found a simple, if brutal, solution to that. And that's why when you invited me on the show and I said, yeah, DM me, you had a bit of trouble. Because I couldn't face your disappointment anymore.
Anyone should be unfollowing anyone on Twitter. After that, it's not about... Rona Cameron wrote was name an 80s solo artist who got number one in the 1980s, and she said T'Pau. That's not even a solo artist. That's what I was... So you're one step up from that.
Well, I'm glad. That's the first time anyone said I'm one step up from Rona Cameron. I'm going to go home happy.
You should go
That's
up.
good.
But I don't know how many times they'll let me go on Pointless. But I think if it's more than 4 and you still haven't won, That's quite bad, isn't it?
You were, I was reassured in the beginning because the last time you'd been on, sorry if my microphone technique isn't quite up to, I'm a trained actor, I could reach the back just with no amplification at all, but apparently it's on the internet. But you were saying the last time you'd been on with an unnamed comedian, which you may or may not choose to name now. I'm going to leave that with you. And that he was so competitive and annoying that you decided to be Mr. Relaxed and that you weren't gonna, so there was no pressure, Rob, don't worry.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if we lose, I just don't want to be that guy.
You were no Dom Jolly, that is what I'm saying. Yes.
Good, I thought I could rely on you.
He's done worse adverts than you. That is, have you seen that? Have you seen that advert?
His adverts are so bad I don't even know what adverts... What's he been in?
He did an advert for ferries that was very short.
Ferries?
For a ferry, like a ferry.
Ferries?
For a ferry from Wales to Ireland. That is
a way of getting from one island to another.
Yeah,
not even aeroplanes. Ferries.
A ferry.
Oh, he's fucked.
Not even from England to France.
They might as well ask me to do hovercraft.
And in the advert, he had a phone. He went, "Hello." That's fucking long. Did they ring you up and go, do me an advert for ferries? Go, oh, do I have to be? And you have to do your catchphrase.
We want you to do that funny thing.
12
We're going to play some Portishead, and it's
Yeah.
going to be like in that show.
It's like me doing an advert and there being like a moon on a stick in the back and me going... and people go, I don't understand the reference. Why is he pointing at that moon? Why's the moon on a stick?
I won't judge Dom Jolly's commercial choices.
So, is it true that you are named after the show Robert Webb? Is that how you got your name?
I wanted it to be called Worldwide Robert.
Yeah.
But that was deemed too hilarious.
That would have been good. It's the worst name for a show apart from Elementary, My Dear Mark Watson.
Was that made?
Yeah.
Really?
It was an improv show. Mark Watson, he'll be a guest later in the series. And believe me, that's all I'm going to talk to him about.
I wrote a sketch when I was 13 that I did at school in lunchtime where I was Sherlock Holmes,
yes.
And they found a piece of rock, and there was no earthly reason why there should be a piece of rock in this Edwardian dining room,
yeah.
But it was so that I could get in the palm. So, what's this, Holmes? I say, sedimentary, my dear Watson. Made me so happy. And I think it's important that you get this stuff out of the way when you're 13, otherwise...
I would have had them finding...
Otherwise you try and get a laugh out of it now.
I would have had them
42.
finding the digestive tract somewhere and then going, alimentary, my dear Watson. That's what I would have done.
Well, that is a different bit of science.
It's an alimentary canal.
It's...
I didn't get that big a laugh, so I presume
it's also a near rhyme.
And Dom Jolly's doing an advert for a canal cruise on the alimentary canal. That's his next.
Or for the fax machine.
So you do adverts.
Yes.
Which a lot of comedians.
Come on, beat up on the champ.
We talk about adverts. So you do the post office advert.
I did. This is all past tense. Yes,
yeah.
Yes, I did.
It didn't last very long.
I did an advert. No.
Simon Bird's doing it now.
Bang, out.
But
we're disappointed in you, Robert. Out.
I spend a lot of time in the post office.
Yes.
Because I go to Shepherd's
Well, now
Bush
that I follow
Green
you
post
again,
yeah.
I see that.
Yeah. And your face was like looking down from all the monitors, laughing,
Yes.
going, "Oh, isn't the post office brilliant?" And it wasn't brilliant. It was bad.
No, I'm sorry to hear that.
So it was You lied to me.
What was good for me about that, apart from the fee, was for a while they didn't actually tell me that this was going to happen, but my face was on the ATMs, the cash machines of the post office, and so sometimes. If I wanted to get some money out, I'd get some money out literally from my stupid face, grinning at me. I'd go, "Oh, well done, me." And so it was lovely like that.
Did it come out
It was
your
an advert
mouth?
telling people when the post office was open during the Christmas season, and that they could send more stuff in parcels than they thought they could if they didn't want to send someone on Amazon, which is clearly easier.
Well, you can go to. There's ones you can do now, like Collect. But if you're going to send a lot of stuff, go to Collect Plus or one of those internet ones. You can just do it online, and then you can just drop it off in a shop, and you don't have to queue up, and you can do it any time of the day or night. They're not paying me. They're not paying me to say that. I just think they're quite good.
Well,
that's the way I roll.
I think they should.
But we were talking about this online, but you kind of got criticised on Chortle for doing adverts for.
Yes.
I can't even remember what it was. Were you being criticised for doing any adverts?
Well, it came off the back of, I wrote a thing about how I thought the Labour Party ought to win the election.
Yeah.
And imagine how much worse it could have gone if I hadn't written that.
Yeah.
Much worse. But I mentioned quite a personal detail about my mother dying of cancer, and somebody on Chortle, and one of their regular contributors who writes unbelievably long and unmemorable sort of blogs, really, but they have a sort of correspondence column, and he wrote a whole thing about how dare I. It was my problem was the hypocrisy of Robert Webb was that I'd used the death of my mother, who died of cancer, and yet I still do this voiceover for e-cigarettes, when it turns out that e-cigarettes, doing his research, because he says at the same time, I didn't know that e-cigarettes contain carcinogens, but clearly he's then gone out looking for evidence. And then there are some really dodgy and flaky studies that show that e-cigarettes might not be, because there are concerns.
Yeah.
But stacked up against, some concerns versus the fucking mountain of evidence of what cigarettes, actual tobacco, is bad for. And I happen to know several people who've managed to quit smoking by using.
Well, I think that's
so
what they're for. I don't think people are going, I must try those e-cigarettes.
No, because anyone smoking e-cigarette looks like a loser and an idiot.
Or a robot from the future.
Or a robot from the future, exactly. He's got plugged in, strange bits of steam coming out like R2-D2 having a wee. But anyway, the point was, so there are concerns, but mainly this is a quit smoking tool. I'm not even morally neutral about this. I think they're a good thing.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to do them. But he had a whole thing about how dare I mention the death of my mother. Waving a shroud is a phrase that will stay with me.
Is that what he said?
Yes, in a sentence otherwise unmemorable. It was a except for its slapstick, fall on its face illiteracy.
It was a very unpleasant thing. I mean, I think it's probably worse to use the death of someone's mother in your argument against someone else. But it's not even your own mother. You're allowed to.
If you bring up a personal detail like that, you sort of think, well, I'm slightly, making myself vulnerable. But then one does expect. It turns out it is possible to overestimate chortle. So anyway, but
I think what's interesting, I think having seen you talk about this, I never have done adverts. I haven't really been offered many. I was offered one for a storage company the other day. It's very exciting. Because I've got, and now I'm a dad, they want to do an advert. Well, it's more like a paid thing where you get paid to go on the radio, and it's sort of worse than an advert. You get paid to go on the radio and do interviews as if you're...
Oh, you're an ambassador?
Yeah.
No, I don't do that.
And it wasn't even any money. I thought maybe I could pay for some podcasts with it, but it wasn't even very much money. And I have to go and go, yeah, well, because I'm a dad now, my wife's making me move stuff out of the house.
So we need some storage. So storage is good, and so it turns out you can pay for storage without just digging a hole in your garden. If you're lucky enough to have a garden, I'm aware of my own privilege. I've got a garden. But I know lots of actors and comedians who wouldn't touch it, rather chew their own arms off and do an advert, and that's fine. Rufus Hound is a mate of mine, is one of them, but his view has always been, it's a personal choice, and it sort of depends where you see yourself in the. Sometimes I'm just a comedy actor and an entertainer and a whore and anyway, and so it doesn't really make any difference. And then sometimes I catch myself behaving like an artist, and I sort of go, ooh, maybe I shouldn't do so many. I don't want to piss everyone off. But it
definitely is.
It's there, and then you go.
If you haven't, unless you've gone, if you're like me, if I now went, the post office came to me and said, "Will you do the next lot of adverts?" and I go, "Yes, of course." I'd be delighted. I love your service. And then people go, "Didn't you just spend a year on Twitter saying the post office was terrible?" Yeah, but they gave me £50,000, so so that would be bad. But I think you've said you've never. It's not like you've put yourself up as being Bill Hicks or criticise people.
I accept that I live in a mixed market, capitalist, liberal, advanced democracy, which involves money and advertising, and that's just the shit that we have to, and that's why we don't die of dental decay when we're 23.
Yeah. Well, and
I'm starting to sound like Mark Corrigan. I'm actually quite more like Mark Corrigan than you might think.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Crowmotion.com. Anyway, so I can't speak. Although he hasn't paid us anything, he did some free titles for us. He's a nice guy.
Sounds
He's a
lovely.
nice guy. Well, actually, while I'm
So now we've established him as Darth Vader.
while I remember, because I forgot last time to do this. Some people have also paid me just to ask the guest questions. So who am I to criticise anyone? This is from Ian Hill, who sounds like a character made up by me. But he isn't, because I would have made him ask something much more. I think no one so far has abused this privilege. And
You'd have said Kurt Viaduct. Yeah.
It's Lou Sanders, and she wants to know, why have you got such weird teeth? It's from Ian.
Because they're my teeth and I couldn't be bothered to fix them, so fuck off.
No, it wasn't. It was Ian Hill.
I could have spent 50 grand and I'd be in Hollywood by now, do my teeth and my hair, and I'd be in some really shit sitcom, because they will laugh at anything. But I couldn't be bothered. I like going to the pub in London.
Here's a charming question from Ian Hill. Robert, like you, I grew up in Lincolnshire, which, whilst beautiful, is awfully remote when you're a teenager.
Yes.
This isn't getting his life story. He just asked a fucking question.
Some of my issues probably stem from...
What are your abiding memories of the place and growing up in what is essentially Britain's largest field?
It is Britain's largest. I mean, it's the 4th biggest county in England.
Yeah.
And it's and you say to people, I'm from Lincolnshire, and they sort of blink politely, and then they say, sheep. And we go, yes, we do have some sheep. And then they might go, flat. We go, yes, it is flat, and we do have some sheep. And that's what people know about it. And so UKIP do very well there, because it's massively isolated, and people feel very sort of cut off. And you drive from where I used to live, you drive for an hour before you get to the A1, which is not a very big road anyway. It's a dual carriageway. Jesus, you can overtake without getting killed. And it's a long way. It's not glamorously north like Manchester or Scotland, but it's north of
It's
Watford.
further north than
people,
think it's going to be.
Yeah. So people don't sort of. But I used to, when I was growing up, I would say castle instead of castle. And I had a speech impediment as well, actually. So I give my S's like this.
Right.
So I say, would you like to have sex with me? And the answer was always no. So it's a great place to be a kid, because you can roam around, and it was sort of pre-Savile.
It wasn't, though.
That's the key, isn't it? It was pre-knowledge of Savile, but it was mentally. It was the 50s, even though it was the late 70s and early 80s. I had a lot of space. But then by the time you're a teenager, yes, you do yearn to see some people when the bright lights are Lincoln or Skegness.
Was the Kinema in the woods not good enough for you?
The Kinema in the woods was always good enough. The Kinema in the woods was the...
Is that how you say it, Kinema in the woods?
It is Kinema. It's
in Woodhall Spa?
In Woodhall Spa.
I'm not saying I've gone deep in my research.
No,
here,
this is... I
was going to ask you about the Kinema in the woods.
I feel ravished by your research. No, the Kinema in the woods, spelt with a K, was the very small, sort of 200-seater cinema in Woodhall Spa, one of the villages I grew up in. And my granddad used to be a projector there during the war.
Used to be a projector?
Projection.
Lincoln is very backwards.
He was a projector.
Go faster, Grandad. We can't shine that torch. Move the thing faster.
The films went through his mouth, and then they shone a light through his arse. He's dead now. It's fine. But yeah, he was a projectionist during the war, and the whole thing about it was that the films were shown from behind the screen instead of behind the audience, so everything was always backwards. No, they managed to turn it upside down. There was a special machine for that.
It's good.
But the good thing about the Kinema is that it always started with playing the shadows, going down, 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 and there'll be this black and white scrolling thing going, "Welcome to Britain's unique Kinema." I did the voice in my head. It was just words, and it was said, "Seats facing the front, brackets like a theatre." And then it would say, "Patrons are asked to smoke on the left." And in this 200-seat cubicle, everyone was just having cigarettes and putting them out in the dark. And it was made of wood. It's amazing that there wasn't an inferno. But that's where I first saw young Einstein starring Yahoo Serious.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking about Yahoo Serious the other day.
The only film I've walked out of.
Really?
Yeah.
I never saw it, but he kind of was big, wasn't he, for 6 months?
Yahoo Serious was a big, he was bigger than Bros.
Do you remember Yahoo Serious? Yeah, a few, and not too many people for it to be a good observation for my anti-Peter Kay routine, but still not very many people. Young Einstein, yeah. What happened to Yahoo Serious?
You saw me hesitate because it's not to be confused with Young Frankenstein,
no, I thought
which
you
is
made a
an
mistake.
hilarious film.
It is very good.
But Young Einstein is risible.
Could you go, because it was so local that this cinema, Kinema.
Kinema.
Did you know that it was?
Kinema.
Did you know that it was really cinema?
Well, I was pretty fucking confused for a bit, because when the only cinema there is spelled with a K, and you go, but apparently every time I keep trying to read it, it was.
Were you able to go and see 18 films, or did they all know you well enough so that you couldn't do that because it's small?
No, because the thing about little villages, you're famous before you're. I mean, the feeling around in a little village, if anyone grew up in a village, is surveillance. I mean, everybody knows who you are, where you live, where you are, and I went back to when Mum died. I went back to live with my dad. Went back to that village, and I couldn't move for people, and he would come in and say, "Oh, Kathy said you got your lunch from the bakery today," when there was actually some corned beef in the fridge. Just everybody knows you. Everybody knows what you're doing. So
because I had to go to Wells to go to the cinema. I was in Cheddar, so that was 10 miles away.
I'm sorry.
That meant we could. No, but it was good because it meant we could get into X films as they were then.
Yeah.
So me and my friends, when we were 14.
Yeah.
Me and my friends went to see The Other Cinderella and Kentucky Fried Movie as a double bill.
Marvellous.
Kentucky Fried Movie was like the Airplane before Airplane, but it had a few rude bits in it. Other Cinderella was just a soft porn version of the Cinderella story. And we went into the cinema in order of how likely we thought it was we'd get in. Not the other way round, which would be the politer way to do it. So Phil Fry, who was the oldest but looked like, genuinely looked 11 years old, was the last one in. And he was the only one that was questioned about how old he was. And we all looked very young, 14-year-olds. And we all just went, no, he is. He is 18. And they went, they didn't give a fuck, basically. I don't know how we got away. I don't know how we got our parents to drive us to Wells. Must said we're going to Wells to look at the cathedral.
Good. I remember going
for 2 hours, and when we come out, we'll all have raging hard-ons.
I remember going to also in Lincolnshire, going to Boston Fair with my friends, and we were all about 16. But at the time, I was the tallest, and so it was my job to go into the offie and try and buy some beer. And I picked up the first 4-pack that I could find and strolled confidently to the counter and put it down and got served. And then I came out and then slightly ruined it by walking out the door and going. And they all applauded, like, excited grammar school friends that they were. I went across, and obviously the first thing I picked up was special brew, and so we all had a sip or two, and then threw up, and then went on the fairground rides, and then threw up.
Do you find sometimes beer tastes like the first beer you ever had? The first time you drink beer, it's so horrible. And occasionally I'll drink a beer.
My granddad poured a pint of beer and left it on the sideboard, and I had a taste of the foam and just thought, he's out of his fucking mind if he drinks this. This is nothing like Coke or Lilt.
Sometimes even I'll take a sip for a beer and it will taste like I had a can of warm Heineken which I'd managed to buy when I came to London one time with the school band. And
what did you play?
Trumpet at the brass band. Yeah. It wasn't even an official brass band because we played trumpets. Let's not get into that whole thing. I just had a great question for you and it's gone out of my head. Oh, well, never mind. I'll do an emergency question to prop us up.
Okay.
If you had to choose between dating a man who was a 6-foot-tall penis...
yes.
Or, I like the fact there's no more question, no subsidiary yet. Yeah, I know what you're talking about there, Rich.
Yeah.
Or a man who, instead of having a penis, he had a tiny man.
Interesting.
So it's like a massive penis.
Okay. Well,
he's got a face on his head and his penis.
I need some qualifying questions.
Yes, you do.
So the man who's a 6-foot penis, can he talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course, he's got a mouth.
Arms?
He hasn't got any arms, but what he does to make himself look like...
so I'm going out with a sort of paraplegic penis. I mean, he can talk, but
he wears... Well, actually, with Emma the other week, we talked about the idea that he might have... He has a false shoulders. He wears a suit, so he has false shoulders when he goes out.
Well, he's already
and
a
he
liar.
Has, He has like ventriloquist dummy hands attached to that suit, which he could. I think if you know, he could use those hands. But you know, you've got a massive penis.
This is the stuff of nightmares. Would I like to date?
Yeah.
The big penis. And is he circumcised? Have you thought this through?
I haven't. I don't think
Does
he's
he wash?
circumcised.
He's
He's British.
this big fucking ballet that talks, that may or may not smell like a cock.
He wash it. I think he would wash.
Well, I'd hope so. If you're a cock, you think, I mean, blimey, I wash my cock most days, but if you are just a cock,
I think if he was going out on a date,
several times, you'd be in the shower every time you pissed yourself.
If he was going on a date, he'd do
every time you pissed out the top of your head. You go, oh, I'm sorry, I better.
If you're on a date, you just run your head under the tap.
And he does a handstand with his fake arms. Sticks his head down the toilet.
I think it's kind to be laughing at him. I think it's unkind.
Oh, I'm being weird. No, I prefer the man who's a normal man.
Yeah, with a little man.
With a small man as a penis, because they could be friends. He's always got someone to talk to, so you know he's probably more emotionally intelligent because he's been a friend to the. Where does he wee then? Does he wee out of his bottom?
I think. Well, the problem I imagine that it's the little man has a little man and the little man sits all the way round.
Like an Escher, like a sort of sexy Escher.
Yeah.
I say sexy. I mean disturbing.
I would say that he would wee out the little man's wee hole.
You would say that, but you're a grown man.
I don't know where that came from. It's because he's little. I thought he had to have a wee little wee wee.
Little, he will have a little man's little wee hole. Yeah. Well, I prefer. In answer to the question, I prefer the man with the human for the penis rather than the human penis.
You were.
Remind me never to let you lose track again, so that we don't have another emergency question.
It's reminding me of something I wanted to ask you though. That question about your career. You're in a double act.
I've no idea where this is going.
With David Mitchell. Did David Mitchell ever attempt to masturbate you with the hand of a 100-year-old ventriloquist dummy? Because that happened to me in my double act, and I just wondered if that was a thing that's a normal thing, or whether I should contact the police.
No, but tell us about it.
I'll tell you later. I've told everyone else enough about this. So we'll go into Dirty Britcom Confessions for you, which has sadly stopped taking entries for people for some reason. But there's a website where comedy fans write their fantasies about comedians. And they're quite weird. So these are some. I don't know if you've seen this. This is quite a weird one. I'm a lesbian, but David Mitchell and Robert Webb kissing badly on Peep Show gets me off.
It takes all sorts.
There's
something for everyone.
What do you think that says about it? So someone who is not attracted to men at all still gets off on watching two men kissing badly. Do you think it's the fact you were kissing badly that got her excited?
I thought we kissed rather well.
Well,
it was surprising, and it's happening in my brain now.
Yeah.
He's got nice full lips, and I was prepared for stubble, and there was a bit, not much, because you have to shave before filming most days, but it was a good kiss.
Yeah.
I don't want a fucking problem. No, she doesn't have a problem. She thinks it's terrific. Why a gay woman would be excited by watching me and David kiss badly?
Or did you think
help you?
You're quite feminine-looking men. It could be that.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's interesting that.
I don't know.
I mean, that is the last thing I would expect. When you were doing the kiss in this.
Yes.
But most of the Peep, I don't remember that. Is that in Peep Show or is that in?
It's in the second series, I think. It's where they go to a boathouse type place, and Marcus had to skinny dip with Jeremy and Nancy and Sophie, and then there's this arsehole character called Gwyn, played by an actor who auditioned for Superhands. As did Russell Brand. Anyway, and yeah, we'd still be on Series 9, wouldn't we? Anyway, So Gwyn, the Gwyn character, is being all sexy and blah blah blah, and then they all start getting off with each other, and then there's a spin the bottle thing, and so I kiss Mark.
Oh yeah, I watched it all again recently because it's on Netflix, I believe.
Is it?
Yeah, so we watched it. We watched it from start to finish, but we watched it, like 4 or 5 hours. It's very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Should have been me and Stu, but it's
explain
a
it.
very good. It's a very good. Should have been me and Stu and Russell Brand. If the universe is
with Russell watching Matt King's performance, going, fucking no, mate. No.
Here's another one. I met. This will make you pause for thought. I met Robert Webb and then cried in an alleyway while licking my hand that shook his.
Were they tears of? I mean, what? The thing is, these are great quotes, but then I just want the context. Was it because I was using a really really firm handshake and I just fractured a.
I don't know. I don't know if the tears of joy, of ecstasy.
I don't think I have a firm handshake, so yeah, cried.
They were licking, presumably just trying to lick
crying,
your sweat off their own hand.
Crying. I mean, I've heard I won't wash for a week, but not I'm going to cry and lick.
And your tears would get mixed up in that, and you wouldn't be able to taste the salty Robert Webb sweat from your own salty, brackish tears.
I'm really trying to feel flattered, and God knows it. It comes easily, but no, that person needs to look at their life.
Yeah, well, I think this other person does as well. I've never found Robert Webb and David Mitchell as attractive as when they wore Nazi uniforms. Christ, so sexy and so wrong.
Look, those Nazis knew how to dress. They did nothing else. I must say, I caught myself, knowing that we were doing that sketch that day, I was shaving so carefully. And I'm going, what the fuck are you doing? You're paying the compliment to Nazis. But they were, if they did one thing right, they were punctilious about facial hair.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just imagine you
looking
at
uniforms.
yourself in the mirror, wearing that uniform, licking your own hand, crying.
Or face. Licking my helmet.
So, back to Lincolnshire, which is what I'm mainly interested in. But this, I've decided to mainly make this about people's before they were famous. In fact, when I was writing, I very briefly wrote for Harry Hill's TV Burp. When I say very briefly, for 1 week.
Okay.
I've done quite a few things like this. I wrote for Russell Howard for about 2 weeks, but I ate so much Haribo that they sacked me. With Harry Hill, I realised it was an impossibly difficult show to write for. But we came up in that table with quite a good idea of before they were famous, which is just someone in their flat and then the phone rings and they go, "What? I got it! Fantastic! That's great! Cheers!" And then a show called After They're Famous, when the phone rings goes, "So they're not making any more. That's definitely it. Okay, thanks." Don't think they used it though. But
it reminds me of when, because we were talking about adverts, I'm loath to bring it back to adverts, but when Dave and I did the Mac and PC thing, and we'd done it, and a few months went by, and the iPhone came out, or whatever the new thing was in 2007. Probably an iPhone, but and they got in touch, and we were working for these very mild-mannered and softly spoken Californian ad people, and we were in an office, just me and David, on this conference call with our agent, and this call came through, and we love what you did, and we were so excited about how you, the characters of Mac and PC were so beautiful and absolutely great, and we just feel that we're kind of moving on now, and we'd like to devote our energies in a slightly different direction, and we were like, "Are we fired? Over." It's not really, Robert, it's not really a question of fired. But you don't want to give us any more money. You've got an iPhone now. Over. So, yeah,
nice of them to tell you, though. Usually those things they just don't tell you. No, you have to work it out.
They were mild-mannered.
I'm still waiting for the next series of This Morning, Rich Not Judy. I haven't heard. I've never heard.
Yeah,
it's not
I'm waiting for the second series of Bruiser.
Yeah, I love Bruiser. That was a terrific. But before that, you worked as a truck driver.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Where have I written about that? How do you know that?
I went very deep this week.
I went very deep.
I went really deep.
Jesus. In between, after I left college, and I worked as an usher for a bit, and then that was too horrible to carry on with. And then my flatmate was going out with someone who worked for a sort of lighting events company who would take lights to events, to people's like weddings and stuff. And he needed a driver, and I had a perfectly good normal driving license. And it turns out you can drive a 7.5-ton truck with a normal driving license. And he gave me sort of 10 minutes tuition in how to drive this truck. 7.5 ton, by the way, is about as big as it gets before it becomes an articulated lorry, but they're pretty big. And so I went out driving this truck. It's not that I couldn't drive it, although they have these air brakes that basically you go, and it goes like that. So there was a lot of that. And I was with these two Australians who, they were sort of, I identified them as alpha males, and alpha males have always been kind to me because they sense vulnerability and that I'm not a threat. And so the first time I caused a bit of a traffic jam because I stalled, obviously, trying to get onto the M25, and one of them wound the window down and went, "Fair go, mate, he's doing his fucking best." And then I would just, and this is before sat-navs, and so I just get lost. We'd get lost, and then the truck would break down, and then they would go, "I am so fucking cranky about this," and then we had to spend the night in the cab, and there was a lot of farting. It's 3 people on this sort of long seat in front of a window, trying to sleep, like that. It was, you know.
You can understand why so many lorry drivers become serial killers, can't you? I mean, that's it starts to make sense.
Yeah. No, and then I got lost on my own in Spitalfields, which is like one of the oldest bits of London and not designed for large trucks. and with my Yorkie and my A to Z, and then it just started. I was lost, and I went, well, fuck it, what are they going to do? I'm just going to stop and get my map out, because they don't know that I look like a tiny child. As far as they're concerned, there's this massive fucking truck in front of them, and they'll just have to beat their little horns.
Yeah. How long did the job last?
I did it with 6 days.
Yeah,
£80 a day, which was a king's ransom.
Yeah.
It was fucking amazing, because I've been ushering at the Lyric Hammersmith for £10 a night, irrespective of how long or short the play was. And so you'd see whatever play it was 40 times, or at least the first half or the second half 40 times. So you sort of swap with someone so that you didn't have to see the first half again. And the only good thing that I didn't mind seeing 40 times was Harry Hill.
Right.
But everything else, Jesus Christ.
Because I remember asking you, I used to run a gig at the Lyric Hammersmith, and I think I asked you and Robert to come down. You and David to come. You're Robert. I've done the thing that everyone does to me. They always call me Robert. So I asked you to come down, and you kind of sent me an email back going, "Yeah, I really don't want to come."
We've got the fear. We're not setting foot in that fucking place ever again. We might. if the money's right.
There's Bruiser was really great. I remember Bruiser, and the genius step you had about that is you put a Tim from The Office in that before anyone thought of doing that.
Tim from The Office wasn't mine and David's idea.
Well,
the director saw him in a thing and cast Martin Freeman, and David and I were hilariously threatened by Martin. If I memory serves, we were children, but Martin was, he talked to girls. He was kind of smooth. He was a bit charming. He was very sincere.
Yeah.
He talked about. He was very open. And me and David were kind of, here goes Martin. Martin's going to talk to the makeup artist about his problems and be all fucking understanding about being done by her boyfriend. And Martin just wants to fuck her. We know what Martin's game is, don't we, David? Oh, here we go. Oh, look, they brought him in a car, but he's sitting in the front. What a scab. He's letting us all down, sitting in the front because he's a proletariat. He's talking to the driver because he won't sit in the back. Even though that's the form. He won't obey the form, David.
Did you think he would go on to be an international movie star?
No. No, I thought he was very good in Peep Show. I thought he he wasn't even in Peep Show, twat. I thought he was brilliant in some of the sketches in Bruiser, but I didn't think he'd be a movie star, honestly. And I've seen him in films, and I think he's great.
Have you got his phone number? Because I'd like to get him on this.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't spoken to him since.
Only got you on, so we could get him on.
2005.
I'm friends with his wife on Twitter,
I know Olivia Colman's husband.
Do you think if I tweeted Tim from The Office's wife, who follows me on Twitter because she said something to me on Twitter, and said, "Can you ask Tim from The Office to be on my podcast?" Do you think that would be insulting to her?
No.
No. Okay, I'll do that.
I don't know. I've never met her. I've got no data. I think you should give it. I think you should go for it.
Okay.
I think you should reach for the stars or the hobbits. Or
We were talking backstage about nudity, and you were famously nude at birth.
Famously nude, and I've barely got dressed since.
You were in the film Confetti.
I was,
which is a strange film. Was it an improvised film?
Yes, it was. Well, not according to the credits, because if you look at who wrote it, it was written by Debbie Isaac, who directed it. But what I remember was that it was the whole point was that it was a deeply derivative, an original improvisational thing, sort of Christopher Guest stroke Mike Lee, but not as good as that. Thing where three couples compete to have the most original wedding, and Collie and I've known her for a long time. I get to call her by a nickname. Don't hate me. Olivia Colman and I played two nudists, or naturists as they prefer. The trouble with that is when you really get into the heart of what naturism is, there is this massive nothingness, which is it is just people doing normal stuff except without any clothes on. So you can't really play that. That's not a character. So we spent, there wasn't any rehearsal. What I gather from people who've worked in other improvised films is that they rehearse and they rehearse and they rehearse and they rehearse, and eventually there's something you call the script, and then they shoot that, and that's the film. What we did was talk and talk and talk about the nudity issue, or the other couples, Steve Mangan, lots of brilliant people in it, talk about their characters. And then they turn up, and then they get into costume, and then they're on the set, and then Debbie Isaac goes, "This is the scene," because she's worked out everything, but secretly, not telling anybody what's going on, because the process is obviously more important than the outcome. And she would sort of say, "So, the scene is, you're going to have an argument about the tennis, and then there'll be a row. Go." And then, so you do a 20-minute take, and then you hear eventually, cut, and then you go, "How was that, Debbie?" And she goes, "I suppose I find something in the edit, we've got to move on." And then, so you do that for a while, and that's everyone else, but what we had, Collie and I were doing that, but naked. Yeah. And we're not naturists, and we're not used to being naked. And there is such a thing as a nudity taboo. There are good evolutionary reasons why we feel shame. And we were feeling some shame. I was feeling a bit of shame. I think I'm kind of unremarkable, sort of nothing special, but fine. Olivia should really not have taken that part. She thinks she's worse than fine, and she's kind of like this the whole time. You just want to run in with a towel every time or a blanket every time you see her on that screen, and so it was a deeply, deeply miserable. Because there are two sort of, you're doing it there, and it's a closed set, so only 40 men standing around. And then there's that aspect of it, and then there's it goes out on international release aspect of it. So there's the thing at the time, then there's the thing later.
Did you think you were going to be pixelated though? That's what it says.
I have to be careful at this point because I know you can't afford lawyers.
Okay.
I think everybody heard what they wanted to hear, but it was my sincere impression at the time that it was made clear to me that due to the genre of the film, that the genre will be a mock documentary thing, and according to that genre, what happens is that genitals are pixelated, and so I got the impression, rightly or wrongly, from the lying cunt Debbie Isaac. as I thought of her for a while, possibly wrongly, that's what would happen. But that turned out not to happen, as I discovered when I went to the cast and crew screening.
At least they're usually in that situation, if they're going to pixelate it, they would give you a little, what's it called? A
ball bag?
Yeah. there's something's pouch. It's something. Oh.
No, I mean I did understand playing a naturist. Then you can't do it with your underpants on.
Yeah.
But I just thought it would. I thought there would be establishing shots where you tell the story. These people haven't got any clothes on, and then you're up here or you're long shots again. What I didn't expect would be 15-second shots where I'm competing for attention with my own cock. Which, as I say, is not a remarkable cock. I wouldn't have done the film if it was a weird colour or strangely thin or anything peculiar about it. But still, you do get upstaged by that because we're not used to seeing flaccid cocks. We're used to seeing erect cocks if we watch pornography. Yeah. But we are not used to seeing the bloke from Peep Show's cock. So it draws the eye. And so no one's really listening to what I'm saying, which is fine, because I'm improvising. And the bit of my brain that's supposed to be good at improvising is just thinking, everyone can see your cock. So Debbie Isaac managed to get out of me my worst ever performance. And my cock.
Good.
And that's all the story of Confetti.
I'm delighted. It's all right. It's all right film. It's all right.
Yeah, I think it was probably all right.
I think
I think it was.
There've been a lot of.
I think it was fine.
There've been a lot of British comedy films, and most of them not very good. Well, most of them are worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Debbie Isaac's are worse. Her other films are worse than Confetti.
What other films?
I think Confetti. Well, I haven't seen them.
Okay. I might have seen them.
No, she's done Nativity 2.
Oh, okay,
I think Nativity 3.
Yeah.
Other things.
In those films, did the children just? I think the adults playing them, aren't they?
Yeah. I don't know.
It'd be quite good if there's just a 20-year-old kid. They do Nativity 20, and it's a 24-year-old going, "Why are we back doing another Nativity play? We had to. We got."
Well, Santa has his balls hanging out, but they really are pixelated.
Are you ever confused with Robert Webb, the 18th century politician and merchant?
No, and I didn't know. I love this section of the show, and I didn't know there was one. I know that I didn't go back and look, but for a while, when I was obsessively Googling myself in search of recognition, there were at least 2 marine biologists called Robert Webb, and I don't know if they're still around.
Of Robert K. Webb, who specialised in the systematics of turtle family Trinachidea.
Right, that guy.
Because if you ever get confused with him, maybe you get invited onto the BBC News like that guy, that taxi driver who ended up talking on the news. And they go, "So, Robert, tell us about the..." It'd be worth prepping some stuff.
I've never taken my clothes off in a film. What?
And there was also a 19th century English cricketer. Have you ever?
Really?
Yeah. I thought there'd be more famous Robert Webbs.
They're not uncommon names, either of them, so you'd think, but...
Yeah.
Okay.
There aren't that many.
Okay, I feel fine about that.
Okay. How do you? I'm trying to find what it was called. The series. Yes, the series you did. Great movie mistakes. That was a mean-spirited piece of work. You think George the Soundman? Yeah. George the Soundman back there. You met earlier.
Yeah.
He hates you because of that.
Yeah. I got that when I did Ambassadors. It was this comedy drama that wasn't comedy enough to get a recommission, or drama enough to get a recommission from the drama. But anyway, that's another sad story. But and there was a Russian. Oh shit! I'm going to be in trouble. He was a Serbian actor. Who called himself Yugoslavian, which is why you can tell he's Serbian. But he was doing. Let's get into trouble. But he said, "I've seen your movie mistakes. I fucking hated you for that." And it's very. I did 4 of them, and then
some. I did 4 of them. You didn't just do 1 of them and go, "Oh, I better not do that again."
No, I did 4. 4, count them 4. And then Pappy's Fun Club did the 5th one, but, and that was years ago as well. But they got repeated all the time. No, I didn't. I mean, one of them, I think the 3rd one is quite well written. What can I tell you?
It's just pointing out continuity errors and things. Really.
Yeah, no, it's...
look at these cunts. Look at the cunt. You should have got the name of the continuity person gone, what the fuck was this cunt thinking on this day? Look at that can of beans.
Look at this fucking cunt.
That can of beans has moved.
Well, I'm trying to... I really am. Look! She's drinking some wine, and then the next shot, cunt's fucking drunk it. Would you believe it? What a load of professional people. The weird thing was, it sort of feeds into this sort of persona that I think comes out of Jeremy and Peep Show, where I was getting jobs to behave like a cunt. And so it gets written, so comedy writers or some people are hired to do this stuff, and here's the script, and I've said yes, and now everybody's ready, and I'm going there, and it's all in the auto cue. And but it's a mistake I only make 4 times.
Wasn't even on proper telly. You kind of got paid that much for it.
For 2 days' work, it
was all right.
It's some money, yeah. I mean, what do you want from me?
I think if I was a continuity announcer and continuity person who worked on anything you worked on subsequently, I would just fuck up every single shot you were, and I'd put like big cocks pointing you out. If I just behind you, all the crew just get their cocks out and rest them on your shoulder. And you're doing your...
They are professionals. They won't often do that. The thing is, by the time because there's a thing called I can't remember, due comment or due. There's a technical term for it. I'm sorry, I've forgotten. But you have to make a comment about a clip in order to be able to show the clip for free.
Right.
Sorry. Fair dealing. Thank you very much. Exactly right. Who are you?
That's Ben Walker, the producer. I thought it was a heckler, but it is the producer. An impressive heckle from the audience.
So fair dealing rules. Thank you. You have to use at least 2 adjectives about the thing that the clip that you're talking about. And for a while there, from series 1 till 4, I'd say. The writers just picked 2 sarcastic and horrible adjectives to describe things. So I'm just this horrible, sarcastic wanker going, in the disappointing and shabby sequel to... And then you may say it took me quite a long time to realise this was a mistake. I agree. But I didn't do the 5th one.
I like coming up with ideas for terrorist atrocities. Do you ever do that? I've got a new one. I thought this last week, but I forgot what it was. You know, like outside tube stations, quite a lot. There's like attractive people handing out cans of Coke or Kit Kats and stuff on promotions.
Not outside tube. Attractive people.
Yeah.
Handing things out. I see some I see some Dickensian grotesques.
Well, they don't have to be attractive, but there's some people giving out like free chocolate bars and cans of drink. If they just put a slow-acting poison into all of those, you could wipe out about 3,000 or 4,000 people, I would say. I think you could beat 9/11.
Or into the...
But I'm not saying do it, but I'm just saying if I was a terrorist, that's what you'd be aiming for. In anything under 9/11 is like, what was the point in that?
Or the free...
So... You could, and what I'm saying is it's pretty easy to kill lots of people, and terrorists do really apart from 9/11, they do really fucking badly at it.
They're not happy people, and they're
not.
So they haven't had time to plan because they're too busy being angry. But maybe you could do that with the free Cadbury's chocolate you get. They keep trying to push on you in WH Smith's.
Right.
Every time you buy a pencil sharpener.
You'd sort of have
Would you like a massive bit of whole nut? No, I fucking wouldn't.
I think the terrorists would have to get WH Smith on board to make that work. That seems like a lot of...
Maybe that's exactly what's happening with the capitalist geo-global thingy, whatnot.
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to get less customers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they could charge the surviving customers more.
Exactly.
Yeah, what doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
You ever had any... I've got loads of terrorist ideas. I would be brilliant at being a terrorist. And I've been kind of mediocre as a comedian, so I think maybe I should move over to terrorism.
I think you're wonderful comedian. I don't think I've given this enough thought.
No. It's just interesting. It's interesting if someone goes straight away, yes, I have 10 plans. Bob Mortimer had quite a lot of quite horrific ideas. Just general murder of his wife and stuff like that as well, beyond... That's not even what I was asking.
If you got like a Zeppelin
Yeah.
and you lowered it into Wembley Stadium on World Cup final night, or FA Cup final, assuming we're not hosting the World Cup final.
We might be.
Well, we might
By
be.
this time this is out, we
exactly.
might be.
But let's assume it's full.
Yeah.
And you'd put, like, you know those that kids have plastic, where you put the thing down and it's got a sort of sticker and it sticks down and then it stays there for a bit and then it pops up.
I do, yeah.
But a really lethal version of that. And you cover the lower part of the Zeppelin with those. It would take a lot of trouble to time it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is easy.
Yeah.
To time it so they all popped out at the same time and they're all poison tipped. And there's one for everyone there. Yeah? No dice.
I think once you've got the Zeppelin lowered into the Wembley, just a big bomb inside the Zeppelin
let's
would
assume
be...
let's assume the Zeppelin is made of not safe helium, but actual good old-fashioned hydrogen.
Yeah, exactly.
So they can't shoot it.
No.
Fucking hell, I think
But
just
also,
outrage.
I would just say, why not just forget about the little bumpy things? Just put the Zeppelin full of hydrogen into Wembley and light a
but
match.
where's the fun with the...
Also, you've chosen a very slow... It's like a very slow...
That's what makes it...
It's like coming up 3 miles away. It's probably...
That's what makes it macabre. That's what makes it sinister. That it happens in like fucking slow motion, like all nightmares do. Like, what's that?
I think that's coming this way.
This is a good game of football. Football fans probably say, "I'm enjoying the football." What's that unbelievably slow-moving Zeppelin? I didn't think they did. Did they do Zeppelin? They still do Zeppelins. They did. There's a Zeppelin. Oh, well done, Brian Robson. Here comes the Zeppelin. I wonder what it's doing. Why is it lowering? Why is it full of those poppy? Oh no, it isn't.
I like the poppy things. That's isn't it?
They don't really work.
You stick to comedy and being rude about continuity mistakes. That's what you're good at. Don't do blowing things up. I haven't asked you any emergency questions. People will be annoyed and we're going to have to stop soon. So, have you ever tried to suck your own cock?
Yes.
Good.
Successfully from the ages of 13 to 15.
Wow.
It's my own cock, it's not your cock.
And did you stop because you became less limber or because you became bored?
Yes.
Got ennui about
because my cock shrank.
I've seen your cock. It doesn't look all that impressive.
I think, 13 to 14, it was where I was maximum bendy.
Which technique did you do? Did you go legs over
feet
the head?
up the wall.
Yeah, feet up the wall.
Yeah, and then over.
Come forward.
And then over.
I did.
What you don't want at that point is because my mum did walk in on me when I was in a more conventional position but I was in bed and there was just a bit of what? And that was fine. But if she caught me while I was doing that, I think I'd have broken my neck. So that was lucky.
It was. My mum only caught me after she thought she caught me wanking, but she caught me after I was in the post-orgasmic delight. Under the sheets, lying back, she opened the door without knocking, and I went, oh! And just went straight, but then she thought that she caught me wanking, but Mum, you hadn't caught me wanking,
So loser.
That's what they're trying to do.
You think you got that on me? Haven't. Fuck you, you'll die first.
Would you rather have a hand made out of ham or an armpit that dispensed sun cream?
A hand made out of ham?
Yeah. And you can eat it and
I
it'll
love
grow
ham.
back. Yeah, well then it's a ready supply.
You can eat it and it grows back?
Yeah.
I wouldn't get much done.
Well, if you ate it all...
Is it my typing hand?
You can choose. I'll let you choose which one. If you eat it all, it takes like a month to grow back. If you nibble it, it'll grow back.
I can imagine licking it quite often, but only in private.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do the people around me accept this? Is it normal? They've got used to it. They're not. It's not remarkable.
They accept as much you accept the gigantic penis man that you seem to think was ridiculous.
I did find him a little bit ridiculous. What was he?
An armpit that dispensed sun cream.
That's
like enough for you to use through the whole year.
That's silly.
It is. It's silly.
It's silly.
Yeah. I'd never really thought of that.
No, I think that's far-fetched.
I probably needed to be told that. I've asked that question to a lot of people, and everyone else has just taken it in good faith and answered.
No, I think that's silly.
If your finger could travel through time,
whose anus would you finger first?
Interesting that you went that way.
If you were invisible, whose face would you sit on first? That's an Abigail Burness joke.
I'm going to ask that in the next.
That's my wife's joke. If my finger could go through time.
Yeah. What would you do with it? Where would you go? Where would your finger go, and what would it do? I've adapted this question because it used to be, would you rather? This is a stupid question.
Right.
Would you rather have a finger that could travel through time, or a tit that dispenses talcum powder? No one chooses that.
No one chooses a tit that dispenses talcum. I'm not much of a talc person.
No, well, no one is. Well, it's a stupid choice.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But only for about the first 16 times at most. I mean, we're all getting a lot of enjoyment out of that. But I suspect...
So it's only one. It's not two tits. It's one tit. So it'd be.
I love one that doesn't work. I suspect that the mime and the sound effect is more fun than the reality.
You've got to imagine it's like. I mean, I wouldn't be. Would it have to be this? He's taken all his clothes off. The people who are listening to just the audio version of this are quite confused.
Suddenly very shy. If they're listening to that, I am naked right now.
So I've changed it to just what would you do if your finger could travel through time?
My finger could travel through time.
Go anywhere you want. Just your finger. You can look through the side and see where it is. You can,
yeah.
And it can travel in time and space. So it's not just here we are in the Leicester Square Theatre and I've just touched Joan Collins doing a show last year. It can go anywhere. Good, you know.
I'd probably.
You can go up anyone's arsehole you want.
I'd probably finger Hitler up the arsehole. So that he'd relax a bit. So just when he got turned down from art school, and he was having a wank, and then I'd put a finger up his bottom, and suddenly his wank would be strangely more threatening and yet more pleasurable. Yeah. And he'd just go, oh, actually, everything's fine.
Would you not?
It's fine being rejected from art school. I don't need to kill 50 million people in a world apocalypse.
Would you not worry that you doing that is what would send Hitler on his crazy spree? Because up to that point he was. Or you've chosen the exact point where he's just an art student.
I suppose my question is.
You could have done it, and it's gone in, and Hitler's gone. Whoa. Didn't like that. I'm now going to become the Führer and start the war.
I suppose I'm starting from the premise that he already was a motherfucker.
Yeah, but you don't know that because you don't. That's how time works. You don't know. Maybe it was your finger going back through time that made him into that. You tried to change history.
I suppose
and
what
you
I'm
ruined it. It's your fault. In fact, your finger is more responsible than Hitler. What you're saying, we should chop off your finger now just so that you can't do that, and then we can save the world. I think we should do it just as in case.
Are you finished?
No.
Good. I'll let that be the last word.
Okay, well, we didn't ask really anything about Peep Show. Is it coming back?
Yeah.
I've got a question about Peep Show. Is there anything you haven't said about Peep Show yet in your life that you would like to say?
You mean how much like are me and David like our characters?
Yeah.
No, I think I've said. I think I've explained Peep Show to my satisfaction.
And that could be the title of this episode. I think I've explained Peep Show to my satisfaction. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Robert Webb. Thank you very much. Cheers. There's an interval. We'll be back with Louis. Buy DVDs if you like. Thank you very much. I'll give this away in the second half. Thank you. How'd you like them sky potatoes? Thank you for watching Rich Tang's Leicester Square Theatre podcast, which was sponsored by crowmotion.com. Go there for all your crow motions. That's like bird poo, now I think about it. Ugh, disgusting. I do have to mention in this closing monologue, this has been sponsored also by Chris Hopkins. We gave him the option of leaving a message, and the message he left was an I with an umlaut above it, an upside down question mark, and a half. And you can use this for whatever you want, and that might mean something, that might be some code for some terrorist attack that once that gets said, nuclear codes are launched, I don't know. If you've enjoyed these podcasts, you can help donate. Go to gofasterstrike.com/badges. All of your money will go to future podcasts, in fact, probably mainly to an As It Occurs to Me podcast if you go to donate per monthly, but you can make a one-off donation. You can also get a catch for question, or me calling you or your friend a fucking idiot by donating some money there and then emailing chris@gofasterstrike.com. Actually, email him first and check that there's something left. Anyway, that was the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it.